everybody, and welcome to another tutorial. I'm so excited for today's tutorial, but before we get started, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below. That way you can be a part of my crafty family here on YouTube, and be sure to sign up for my newsletter over on my website, CorinneBlackstone.com. I would love to have you over there to learn all fun things that we are doing all over my social medias. In today's video, we are going to unbox and set up my brand new Sublimation printer. I got this one from Target. It is the Epson ET-4700. I'm so excited. I will link everything that we're going to use in this video down in the description box below, but feel free to ask questions down in those comments. I am more than happy to answer those for you. I'm really excited to start on Sublimation. It is a really fun way to use your crafting skills and your design skills, and it's becoming much more popular, so let's go ahead and get started. So I've moved you down a little bit so you can see the printer box better. But this is the one that I got. Again, it's the Epson 4700. This is an EcoTank printer, an EcoTank printer. So again, this one is from Target. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And this comes with ink. It comes with the printer, all the cables, things like that. But we won't be using the printer ink that came with it. Now, I do have another Epson printer that takes this same ink. So the bonus to this, especially if you have another Epson, is that your ink won't go to waste. So that's something to think about if you're wanting to get into the Epson Sublimation world. Is, can you use the printer ink in another printer, or can you give it to somebody who might not, have the Sublimation printer, may need some ink. So you get the little instruction manual and the disc. You technically don't need the disc. You can get everything off the internet, but if for some reason you need the disc, it does come with that. And then it is pretty well packaged. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this out pretty easily, but it may take me a minute. So these are the inks that come with your machine. I have a set of these already for my other Epson, so I'm just going to save these. I'm going to leave them in their packaging, and I'm going to save these, and that way I can use them in my other printer when the time comes to change the ink for that. So that's a great way to keep your printers. So if you already have one, it's awesome. You've got an extra set of ink, and you're not wasting anything. Now we do have some styrofoam pieces on either side. I'm just going to toss those on the floor for now to get those completely out of the way. Power cord. This is very important. You want to make sure you keep your eye on where you place this. And then we have our printer. Now this is in a plastic bag. But what's nice is that you can use the plastic bag to lift it out of the box. You slide the box out of the way. Make sure there's nothing else in there for us, and toss that to the floor. We don't need that. So this is a really compact size printer, which is one of the reasons I really liked it. But keep in mind that it can only print an 8.5 by 11 size. So if you want to do larger sublimation prints, you'll want to get a bigger printer. But this is a great starter, and it's super easy to use, and it was pretty inexpensive for a sublimation printer. I'm going to go ahead and unpackage it. Now there's little pieces of blue tape all over this thing, so we're just going to start peeling. Now that we've gotten all the packaging off of this, we can go ahead and get it set up, get all the printer ink put in it, all of that good stuff. The tanks are going to be right here down in this little section. If you look, you can see where you can see your tank levels, all that. You also have the screen. This screen can pivot. It goes straight up, it goes flat, lots of options. And then we also have our tray. This also can feed from both the back and from the top. And then it also has a scanner. This one has a lot of stuff built into it that literally we're probably never going to use. But if you did want to use it as a scanner, it's kind of a nice feature to have. To open your tank place, you're just going to pull this down, and you'll see that you have all of your tanks right in here. There are directions on how to fill your tanks, but we're not going to follow those directions because we are using the Sublimation ink, but they do have little spots here that you can fill them. When we go to fill the Sublimation ink, I will give you guys the overhead view for that, but you can just see there's these little blue tabs right here, and these come up, and that's how you fill it. Now, I'm going to get our Sublimation ink. I got my Sublimation ink set from Amazon. I will link it down below. It comes with everything that you need to get started. They send you with gloves and the tips for the syringes. They also send you 4 syringes, 1 for each color. You don't want to mix the colors. And then you also get 4 bottles of the ink. Now, I've seen some people who can take the tops off of the Epson ink bottles and actually put them on top of some of the ink, like the sublimation ink. But these look like they're way too small at the top, so we're going to have to do it using the syringe method, which not the end of the world, but it does take a little while. So what I'm going to do first is go ahead and open up our gloves, pull those out. And it is important that you do wear these. You don't want to get sublimation ink all over your hands. They're just like rubber gloves, but you can use any gloves that you have if you don't want to wear these ones. And then we have the needle tips. There are 4 needle tips in here. And then, of course, the syringes. We got 4 colors. You've got black, cyan, magenta, and yellow. That's the ink I got. Again, I'll link this in the Amazon down below. This was highly recommended. There's tons and tons of different kinds, but this one did come highly recommended. I'm going to get you guys the overhead view because we're going to go ahead and start putting in the ink. Here are your ink tanks. This one you can see that has the little flippy tops on them, a little bit easier. So I'm going to start with the black just because it's the one on the end. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. These are pretty well packaged in here, so you definitely want to have some scissors available. So this is just the suitable for EPN printers, sublimation ink. Nothing exciting, just sublimation ink. So I'm going to go ahead and get my syringe ready first. And I'm going to do that before I put my gloves on because I feel like this is going to be kind of hard with gloves. So I'm going to get them all ready before I go ahead and put the gloves on. So it's just simply a needle, and it's not sharp or anything. I mean, you're going to poke yourself if you try to, but it's not like crazy. It's pretty thick, and it's just a regular needle. And all you do is just place it on the end of your syringe. You want to press pretty firmly when you do that. And I always recommend keeping the little cap part because when you throw these away, you want to make sure that you don't throw them away just like open like this. You want to put them back in the little case. That way nobody gets stabbed when they're like when they're doing the trash or anything. So you just want to be careful. With anything sharp like a needle, you definitely want to put it in a sharps container, or you want to make sure that you put it back on the cap. Now you can reuse these, but you will want to wash them out. I personally would just buy new ones. They're not that expensive. So okay, all of our needles are ready, so I'm going to go ahead and set those over to the side. And we're going to start with our black, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure to put my gloves on. And how these are going to be huge on my hands because I have baby hands. So y'all can laugh at me and my tiny little hands in these giant gloves. But again, you can use your own gloves. Just make sure you do have something covering your hand because you just don't want to get ink on yourself. And you can always lay some paper down if you want to, if you're worried about getting any ink on your table. Now you can see we have a seal on this, and I can just poke right through the seal with the pen or with the tip of the needle, and I always try to make the hole just a little bit bigger than the needle tip because you want a little bit of air to go through. And then you just like you would any other syringe, you just pull it up and you'll see that it has sucked up ink. Now I do have a lot of air in it, and that's okay. You can just push it right back down if you get a ton of air and just go again. Sometimes you'll get a lot of air when you first start. Like I'm getting quite a bit of air, so I'm just going to shove it back in real quick, and I'm just going to open this top up just a little bit more. Didn't want to open it the whole way just in case, but we're just going to have to because I just don't want to get a lot of air in here. Like I said, if you're getting a lot of air, just come back, start over. It's no big deal. This one we did not get air in, so we just needed a little more space. So be careful when pulling this out because it is dirty. It's going to have ink on it. And you're going to stick it right inside one of these little holes. There's these little edges, and then you just press it down, and you don't want to go fast. It does take a minute because you want to give it some time to let the ink go down into your tank. So it's a slow process, but once you've done it a few times, it's not a big deal. It's totally easy, very, very simple to do. It just does take a little bit of time. Now on the outside of the printer, you'll see that there is a level. So you'll want to keep your eye on that and make sure you don't overfill because these do have a lot of ink in them. So you will have more ink than you have space in your tank for all of the ink. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch the rest of this all sped up. That way you're not stuck watching this. And then we're going to start printing. Here are the tanks that I mentioned where you can see the ink levels, but one thing to keep in mind is that as you're putting the ink in, it will settle because you are putting some air into this. So you'll need to probably go back and refill them as you go because they will settle quite a bit, but that's how you can see your ink levels. And then I'm going to take you over to show you how much ink is left in the bottles, and that's quite a bit of ink in the machine, but you totally have enough for another refill with all the colors. So you're getting 2 sets of refills really for the price of 1. So I think that's a pretty good deal. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this all installed on my computer, and then we can start printing. So like I said, no CD drive is required because you can just go to their website. So this is going to be www.epson.com. And then it'll tell you to go to /support, and I can't type. And then /ET-4700, which is the model of your printer. And it's going to have us follow the directions here to download everything. You'll want to accept the cookies, it's fine. And you'll see here we have the drivers and the utility package combo installer, which is what we want. We want to just get everything and just be done with it. So click download. And you save this wherever you want. I typically just put it into my download folder and click save. And then it's going to give us the file extension down here. Click on that and it will open. And it's typically going to ask you if you're okay with it doing changes to your computer. Yes, it's fine. And it just wants to tell you that it contains everything you need to use your Epson ET-4700. So click OK. It's going to go ahead and install this. It shouldn't take very long at all. It's a pretty quick process, and then it's just going to bring up their installer guide and all their information. So you need to accept their licensing, and then it's going to ask you which things you want to install onto your computer. I typically ignore the Epson customer research participation software. You don't really need it, and I don't usually use the user guide link because you can just get that off their website. You don't actually need that. Now, if you want to do a scanner with yours, leave the photo scan on. I typically leave that just because in case I ever need it, I have it. That's the nice thing. Even though this is a sublimation printer, you can use this as a scanner as well. So that's kind of a nice little extra combo. So now all it's doing is it's downloading its software, installing its software, getting all of that ready. And what I love is that you can print mobily from this. So from your phone, from your tablets, all sorts of things. Makes it really, really easy. You can do a lot with this. Now, as far as with sublimation, you're going to be limited on size with some of those devices. So just keep that in mind. But if you're doing smaller prints, that's totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys, I'll come back when this thing is all done with its installation. Now all we need to do is click our next button to begin our setup. And it's just going to confirm that the ink is charged. So basically it just says for the first time setup, you need to fill the ink tanks and start the ink charging process as described on the Start Here poster. If you filled the ink tank but did not charge the ink yet, press and hold the question button for 5 seconds and then press the exclamation start button to start charging the ink. Ink charging takes about 10 minutes, is completed when the power light stops flashing. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I don't think you guys need to watch me do that part. Now that we have charged our ink, we can go ahead and confirm that and click next. Now it's going to ask you how you want to connect this. Now we have all of our stuff done wirelessly, but if you're close, you can do a USB connection. There's a couple of options. You can do wireless connection, direct USB, or a wired network. We're going to do a wireless connection. Go ahead and click next, and then it's going to tell us what would we like to do. Set up our printer for the first time, or the printer's already on my wireless network. I'm going to need to set up my printer for the first time. Now what it's going to do is it's going to do what's called Wi-Fi Auto Connect. So it's going to connect automatically. It's really easy, but it will probably suspend your internet for just a second, so don't worry. It's no big deal, but go ahead and click yes and click next. Now it's going to ask for some stuff, and I'm not going to obviously put any of that on the internet. Once you've put in all of your network information, it's going to do the Wi-Fi Auto Connect setup. Now it's going to want us to print our test page, which you can do on any kind of paper that you want. I'm just going to use the sub paper because I already loaded it and I'm too lazy. So just go ahead and click print test page. Here comes our test page, and we just want to make sure that it prints all the colors. Now keep in mind, this is going to look a little bit dull because it is sublimation ink on sublimation paper. But if we were to actually put this on a blank, this would come out really, really bright. So it looks like it did everything just fine. Now that we've printed our test page and it looks good, just click next. It's going to ask us to set up our fax. I have no need for a fax, so I'm just going to click next. I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. So now it's just going to check that we have a firmware update available. So we can go ahead and update that now. We might as well. We're not really doing anything else productive, so let's go ahead and just update that, and we don't have to worry about it later. Usually their firmware updates go pretty quickly. Now, it's just giving us some general directions on the firmware update. It wants us to turn the power off and on again, making sure no jobs are in the print queue. Then click Start to begin updating. So we'll go over to the computer and the printer and do that. It's just going to prepare our firmware update and take care of that. Now that it's done with the firmware update, we're just going to click Finish. We'll need to set this up on our screen, so I'll get this so you guys can see it. So we're going to choose English. And it defaults to the United States, so we'll go ahead and choose that. Now it's asking for our daylight savings time. So winter basically would be any time from November until, I believe it changes in April, and then it would be April through October. Don't quote me on the actual day this time change, but so we're in the winter months right now. And then you can choose how you want your dates and stuff to show. So I like month, day, year. And then it wants us to set our month and our day. So it's, I don't know. Oh, okay. So it wants us to set our dates and our stuff. So all you have to do is use the keypad. So it is the 25th and it is 2021. Praise Jesus. Press OK. And then it asks whether you want the time format in 12-hour or 24. I want it in the 12-hour format. And I literally have no idea what time it currently is. So I'm going to find my phone. It is currently 5:05 p.m., so I'm going to tell it is 05:05, and it's not a.m. It wants me to press this little thingy here to change it to p.m., so I did that, and okay. Now it tells us that it's preparing. I don't know what it's preparing, but it's preparing. All right, friends, let's do a test on our new sublimation printer. So I'm just going to do these Nordic gnomes. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to choose whatever, but I'm just going to download the file. This is from Design Bundles. I'll link the couple of sublimation things that I got down below for you guys, but this is my cute gnomes. So it's going to ask me where to save it. I already made a folder in my CRICUT folder called Sublimation Designs. Click Save, and then it's going to need you to open this up. So you're going to open up the zipped folder. And what we're going to need to do is extract all of our gnomes. So what you'll do is click Extract All, click Browse, and then put it in the folder that you want. So it's already in the Sublimation folder. Select the folder and click Extract. Now mine opens up my folder when it's done extracting. Now keep in mind, a lot of these sublimation designs are pretty big, so you want to keep that in mind. But all we're going to do here now is find one that we want to use. You know what? Easter's coming up, so let's see what we got in our Easter. Let's look at what this guy looks like. I don't love him. He's kind of creepy. You know what? Let's just not do the gnomes. I don't really like gnomes. I find gnomes a little bit creepy. That's just me, but I don't like gnomes. I'm sorry. It's not my thing. So we have this one, which I think is pretty cool. Let's just do this cool sunflower. So you can do it a couple different ways, but you can use just regular printing. You can also open this within like Inkscape and print it out. But what I'm just going to do is open it and print it directly from here because I don't really need to do anything special right now. We're just testing. So I want it to be the full page because we want a pretty big sunflower. And I want to make sure I have the right printer selected because I do have 2 Epson printers now. So I just want to make sure that I have the 4700 selected because that's our printer. And then we're going to choose, and I usually try to make sure I choose like a good paper. And for me, so far, the couple that I've printed out seem to work really good on the presentation paper matte, but you can also just leave it as plain paper. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. I'm going to get the printer turned on. I'll let you guys go over there and watch it print because it's kind of fun. I've got the sub paper loaded and we are printing. Now I forgot to pull out the tray. You want to pull out your tray so your paper doesn't like land on the floor. This will eventually sit on a shelf, but right now because I don't have my shelf built, it's just on my table. But we're just going to let this print. Now I will say I did test this already. And when I tested it, it kind of messed up one of the papers. So hopefully this doesn't have like all that weird extra ink that the first one did, because it looked like all my ink kind of splooged around inside and it was not good. So let's see if we can see it coming out. There it is. Can you guys see it? It's coming. These do take a little bit of time because they are large prints. They have a lot of color, but what you'll see is that it's going to be pretty dull when it comes out of here, but it comes out much brighter on the shirt. And we're just going to do a tester on the back of a CRICUT shirt. We're really not like doing anything too crazy. This is not going to be a shirt that I'm going to wear because I did test it, and I'll show you guys while this prints. I'll take you over here. So this is the shirt that I did a quick test on, but you can see these little spots. That's from where the ink was kind of pooled from the time that it kind of messed up. So this one's got a little bit of that ink on there too. So what I'm going to do is trim that off. You can trim these if you want to. You don't have to. But for this one, if you can see, there's a little bit, I don't know how you guys can see it, but there's a little bit of ink up at the top, and it's just from when it accidentally, like, ate my paper and then went nuts. Totally okay, like, no big deal, but I'm going to have to probably print a couple things before it's fully cleaned out of there. So we'll just trim off the top edge, that way it doesn't get on our shirt. No big deal, but check this out. Look, and you see how it's dull. So do you see how the color looks kind of dull and not so bright? It's a little plain. So I'm going to get the heat press set. Now, according to our paper, it does have all the settings on the box. So for textile, it's 356 to 374 for 25 to 30 seconds with heavy pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and get the heat press on. I'm going to trim that little part of the paper off, and then we can press it. I'm just using a 100% polyester shirt from CRICUT. This is one of their infusible ink brand shirts. I don't like these shirts, which is why I'm using it for a tester, because they are just not my favorite. And I really just don't ever plan to wear one. So all I'm doing is putting a piece of cardstock inside the shirt. This is super important because the ink will bleed through the shirt. So you want to make sure that you have something inside to protect it. Now I'm just using an 8.5 by 11. I recommend getting a 12 by 12 just so you can make sure that you cover up any spots that your ink will be. And then you want to make sure that you're laying this flat. Now I do have a pressing pillow down under my shirt. That's an important thing. It helps you get that even pressure that you want. The next thing that we're going to do is take our transfer, and we need to lay it face down onto the shirt. And again, I'm not putting this evenly. I'm not trying to center this. I'm not doing any of that because this is just a test to make sure that this worked. But I am making sure any of these wrinkles are out because we don't want any wrinkles. The next thing that you'll want to do is put down a piece of butcher paper, or parchment paper works. This protects any of the ink from bleeding through onto your press. And now all we're going to do is press this. I have this set to 376, and I'm going to press it for about 30 seconds with a heavy pressure. I'm going to pop that up before the thing beeps insanely because my cats and my dogs hate it. So I'm going to go ahead and just move my parchment paper off, and then we can take this off. Now, I do warn you, it is cold. It is going to be hot, so be careful. Now, you can tape your image down, and I do recommend that if you're not just testing, but since we were just testing, we just didn't bother. It's fine. No big deal. So here is our shirt all finished. Move the cardstock off. I'll take you guys over to the table so you guys can get a better look at this, but it is really cool. It came out really nice. You can see it's bright colored. Very cool, but we'll go take a look at it a little closer over on the table. Here is the finished shirt. Now, I do have a little bit of a line right here where it didn't press super great, but we'll keep trying. This was just a test to make sure that the printer worked and everything was good. So I think there is a learning curve to doing sublimation. But I wanted to show you, so this was the paper that we used, and you can see a lot of the ink comes off. Now these, I get asked all the time, are these reusable? No. You can't reuse a sublimation print, and you need to do sublimation on super high polyester count items. For example, this one is a 100% polyester shirt. You are going to get your brightest, most true colors on a 100% polyester shirt. The lower the polyester count, the less bright and the less long lasting your sublimation prints will be. I'll be definitely doing some more sublimation videos to show you guys some other ways that you can use sublimation with your designs and things like that. I have some really fun ideas on how to make some really cool sublimation prints, and we're going to use some other blanks and things like that throughout. But don't worry, I'm not changing to a sublimation video content at all. It's just another thing that I can offer you guys in the tutorial realm. So if you have any questions about sublimation, let me know in the comments down below and I will make videos to answer those questions for you. I hope you all had a fun time checking out how to convert your printer to sublimation and testing out our first sublimation print. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting!